Welcome to the Continental. We hope you enjoy your stay.
Is this the dagger? Canada, the NBA title is yours.
Welcome to the Continental Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Mack, and today we have an exciting discussion with a very close and personal friend of ours. He's more than just a friend, actually. He's family, and what's more important, he's a basketball junkie himself. We have Rod. Everybody, let's welcome Rod. Welcome, Rod. Welcome, Rod.
Hi.
Thank you very much.
Me, Adam.
Yeah, no, it's great to have you. Thanks for joining so late. I know we're just a day before the NBA restart playoffs are about to happen, and silly me, it's not that I completely forgot. You just go plow through those the 8 seeding games for all the teams every single day. There's a game going, multiple games going on every day, and then you had the awesome play-in game yesterday between the Blazers and the Grizzlies. Then there's no waiting period. There's no 4 days. It's the playoffs are here. The whole new game is here. And you're like, oh my gosh, what are the series? What's going on? It's here already. Let's go.
Yeah. I had to look some of them up myself.
Yeah, some of them, the Blazers and the Lakers didn't settle until just yesterday, of course, right? So there was a lot of jockeying between seeds and what's going on, but most of the seeding matchups were set earlier last week. But then again, it's also just been a week. Usually, after the end of the season, in a normal season, you have about 4 to 6 days for everybody to settle in, everybody to figure out what's going on, what are the matchups, what are the key players. But this season, I think we can all say it's an unprecedented season. And after more than 150 days, we are finally here at the 2019-2020 NBA playoffs. Let's go. So I know that we both might have some tiny biases to this conversation. And if the viewers and those listening take a look around or have a chance to look at the YouTube, both of us might have a slight opinion about who's going to come out in all this. But we're going to keep it all neutral for now. This is the Continental. Let's try to keep it even keel. But as my guest, please feel free to say to your heart's content what you might feel. I will not judge because I might agree with you on more than our viewers and or listeners might be considering. Either way, I think we're going to have a lively discussion here. What we want to just figure out and talk about is how do we feel about this first round of playoffs and what's it going to look like. Don't worry about what you think the series will be. Just talk about each matchup, and we're going to do a rapid reaction. There's 8 series going on right now, and we want to make sure we keep this little podcast to within that hour time. You ready to go?
Ready. I'm ready.
Okay. All right. But first, let's remind our listeners and guests of the Continental, what are the 8 matchups? Out of the East, we got a number 1 and number 8 seed. It's the Bucks versus the Magic. The number 2 and the number 7 seed, the Raptors versus the Nets. The number 3 and the number 6 seed, the Celtics versus the Sixers. The number 4 and the 5 seed, the Heat versus the Pacers. The number 1 out west, we have the number 1 and 8 seed, the Lakers versus the newly minted 8-seeded Blazers. The number 2 and the 7 seed, the Clippers versus the Mavs. And the number 3 seed and the number the number 3 seed and the number 6 seed, the Denver Nuggets and the Utah Jazz. And the number 4 seed and the number 5 seed, it's the Houston Rockets versus the OKC Thunder. Being the guest of the Continental, I think I should actually let you do the honors first. What series would you like to talk about first? And what intrigues you the most? It doesn't even have to be the best series. It doesn't have to be the easiest series to talk about. But what do you feel is going to catch your eye the most? And what do you want to talk about?
Well, there's a few of them there that look pretty interesting. But for now, let's start with the head-to-head matchup: Houston versus OKC.
I'm sure everybody knows, man, this one it's more than just a head-to-head. This is a history versus history, trade versus trade, star versus star. You know, whose system is right versus whose choices are right. Houston Rockets versus OKC Thunder. So, starting with you, Rod, what do you what interests you about the Rockets and the Thunder?
Well, really, it's just the matchup between Russ and CP3. You know, CP3 kind of got kicked out of Houston, and Russ, he had his time in OKC, and you know, they both kind of were out their times in each city. So it's interesting to see, especially OKC. It wasn't expected for them to be this good so early, especially with Shai and the young guys that they have, Roberson.
Coming
you know,
back.
So it'll be good. It'll be good to see.
Yeah, you know what? The only thing missing, honestly, is if they were actually being able to play in Houston and OKC. Like, I don't know what the Oklahoma City Thunder, Seattle Supersonics fans would be saying if you know, this was actually played in Oklahoma City. And to an extent, even the Houston fans, even though they only had a couple of years of Chris Paul, he brought them to the Western Conference Final. And it would be quite an interesting reception, right? He didn't do anything to get booted out of Houston. You know, he wanted to play it out, and but they traded him. So it's like some of that emotional stuff is out of it, which might be good because honestly, I can't, like, as Russ is amazing, but that would be super, super tough to go walk into Oklahoma City, you know, potentially 2 or 3 times out of a 7-game series and have to face that crowd. And he knows how powerful they can be. And as much as they love him, they also want to win. And that's just like, so at least within the bubble, you know, they'll be a little bit more isolated, and it'll just be, you know, like you said, player versus player, CP3 versus Russ, you know, Harden versus OKC. And it's just going to be all about, you know, what they do on the court. Of course, with Russ, we don't know actually when he's going to come back too. That's a huge factor that's going to play into all this, right? You know, he's out with that quad injury for quite a bit, but I think that actually makes it more interesting because it's going to, you know, without Russ or with Russ, I don't know. It's like the gut reaction I have is experience will win out. You know, like as much as OKC has been awesome in the crunch time, you know, Shea's been freaking awesome. Even Schroeder's been really, really good. I just don't, and I don't know if they can beat the experience of Harden and Russ. But with just essentially Harden on that team is, well, Harden and Tucker are the only ones really on that. Well, I guess DeMarre Carroll, but he doesn't really play. Austin Rivers has a little bit of experience. But it would just be the Harden show. And I think Billy Donovan is going to be good enough and then plus CP3 and his brain power to like find a way to give Harden like fits. Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be crazy. What do you think? You think Harden's going to go for like 40 the first couple games?
Well, probably. It's all the whole time, right? He doesn't have to share with anyone else.
Yeah.
So it'll be the Harden show, but you know, OKC's got some defenders at the wing position.
Yeah.
We'll see what they do. We'll see how Roberson can keep up, and
Well, he's a big X factor. He came out of nowhere, right? He was it almost 2 years he didn't play, but he is lockdown defender, right? He's gonna be interesting. But yeah, it's history and history, player versus player. I think it's gonna be an exciting matchup, and I look forward to it. It's another one of these crazy 8 games every other day that we're just gonna be like. It's not like it's literally gonna be, and we're in the East Coast, so it's gonna be like 1:30 all the way to like 10 o'clock or whatever. And you're just gonna be staring at your screen and be like, "What's happening?"
Yeah. Well, don't get me started with all the Raptor early afternoon games.
Okay, you know, no conspiracy. You know, I'm going to be the proper host and not complain about that. I have similar to you, I have my concerns about a 1:30 East Coast time game for our defending champions. But yeah, well, I am excited to see the Rockets Thunder. It will be too bad, of course, there's no home games, but I think talent-wise, and it might also be an ascension for Shea. That guy does not look like he gets rattled at all. It's gonna be pretty good. It's gonna be pretty good. Okay. All right. I'm next. What series would I like to talk about? You know what? I think I have to hit it hard since we just did the West Coast. Let's bring it over to the East Coast. I think one that's probably slightly marred by some injuries, but it's gonna be one of those immovable forces versus the unstoppable forces versus immovable object scenarios. We're gonna go with the number 3 seed and the number 6 seed, Boston Celtics versus Philadelphia 76ers. What do you say to that series?
Oh man, this is probably be the best series of the whole first round. Those two teams, they've both been near the top, but Philly, they've lost a few games and they're down to the 6th seed, and they're without Simmons. But both teams, they're kind of the opposite. Like their strengths are both, like as they're currently constructed without the injuries. Both teams are kind of, Boston has the guards, Philly has the big men. So we'll see how, their styles compare and contrast, especially in the first round of the playoff. I'm just hoping they beat each other up enough so that when Toronto gets through, they'll just pick up the scraps, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, honestly, the injuries probably fudged around with that matchup just a little bit because, I think without Simmons, Philly is going to be missing some of the key defenders on Tatum and/or Brown and Jaylen Brown. That's going to unfortunately be huge. But what that also means is you might have Embiid and Tatum going bonkers for 7 games in a row, and it'll be interesting, right? Like I was saying, you got the unstoppable force, that is the self-quoted unstoppable force that is Joel Embiid. And honestly, there isn't, outside of the true immovable object, Marc Gasol, there's nobody in the NBA who can show that they can stop it. During the regular season, the Philadelphia 76ers beat them 3-1 in the regular season, and Embiid, outside of one game, beasted on Boston every single time. Of course, though, on the Celtics side, you have the brain power of Brad Stevens, who's now seen Embiid this will be his 3rd time seeing him in the playoffs. And, second time seeing him in the playoffs. And obviously, 3 years of regular season. And then you have the ascension of, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum to throw at Philly. I think the thing that will make this thing a really interesting series is if Tobias Harris and Al Horford show up. It will be interesting to see what Al Horford has to say about the Boston, play set, and because he spent so many years with them and Brad Stevens. It'll be interesting to see if any of his insight changes the game, but it's going to come down to who's going to stop who, right? They're all going to score like crazy. Who's going to stop who is really what's going to really make this series really actually be something, or it could be a flame out. But dang, it's in the end of the day, you'll see. It's almost like old school versus new school too, right? Embiid, which is if he doesn't shoot any threes and just goes down in the low post, and as Shaq and Charles always say, goes down there and eats like a buffet down there. It'll be interesting, right? Versus, Tatum and Brown are essentially the quintessential 2020 NBA player, right? A 3-and-D wing who are long, who can defend, and who can shoot, who can drive and make plays. So, don't know. To your point, they beat each other up, and then let the Raptors take the let the Raptors get past the Nets and take on who's next, right? But
Definitely.
yeah. Either way, it'll be interesting. Do you? Let me ask you a question. Do you think this might be Brett Brown's last series as a head coach if he doesn't make it out of the first round?
I don't know. He has a built-in excuse with Simmons out, but he's been on the bubble for how many years now? His job's always been in peril. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, this could be the year that that they don't make it, then he'll be out. But yeah, there's already what, one vacancy out there?
Chicago. Yeah.
Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? And well, not to bring it back to the Raptors again, I hope Adrian Griffin gets that. That would be an awesome opportunity. I think that fits him to the T. But I wouldn't be surprised. He's done Brett Brown has done a great job. But I hate to say it, but we've had situations. The Raptors have had situations just like this. Although with Casey's Coach Casey took us much, much further and made a true culture to be respected, right? And that's what we built on, right? Sometimes it's a little different. Brett Brown had to deal with the process, which must have been tough, and he succeeded in developing some awesome players. But we'll see what they say, right? Sometimes it's those things that some people don't say that matter, right? And sometimes you don't necessarily hear like the Simmons, and I think Embiid has cheered for Brown a lot. I don't think so. I've heard Simmons say anything. So
no, we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see. It's going to be an exciting series, and it'll be a heck of a next round after. But let's not look ahead. All right, you're up. What do you want to hear a Raptor reaction to? Next up.
Let's see here. Let's look at the Lakers and Blazers.
Oh, I was wondering when you were going to get to the Lakers. Although Irvin's not here on this call, so that would have went real fast if there's anything. But that one, I think, as soon as it was determined, okay, my view is as soon as it was determined that the Blazers would be the Lakers' opponent, and I think even by Friday, on all those talking head shows, most of them were like, yeah, that's pretty much it's going to be the Blazers. No knock on Memphis being new or anything like that, but they were young, right? Outside of JV, the only person, nobody had any real experience there, and it would have been really hard to beat a Blazers team like that. They did an amazing job just to get to that point, and they're going to have some crazy future. But going back to it, as soon as it was going to be the Blazers, Grizzlies, and the play-in, all those talking heads on Friday were assumed it was going to be the Blazers going after the Lakers. And as soon as that happened, all you could see is everybody's like, holy moly, worst matchup ever for the Lakers. They're going to be in big trouble. Yeah, it's honestly, they would have had a problem with Memphis, but they would have out-experienced Memphis without even blinking. The problem with the Blazers is, it's, there's just it's Dame time every time now in the bubble, right? And
they're a different team.
They're a different team, right? With Nurkic there, it really makes a big difference, and especially with the Lakers not having Bradley and maybe Rondo. I was hearing that. I was reading that Rondo may play, but I'm like, he just had a broken finger. He hasn't played for the 3 months they were out, plus another month of no playing in the bubble. I don't know how you can expect him to be ready to go. And as we saw, point guards just shredded the Lakers, right? Yeah. The only thing, though, that I think might make this maybe not as tough a matchup for the Lakers is really up to, I think, my opinion is LeBron. Because when I looked at the Blazer team, amazing team, but when they played that Nets game, which was insane, that last game, and I was watching Dame just go freaking nuts, the one thing that stood out, though, is they got no wing defender, right? Yeah, they don't, without Ariza there, and even Al-Farouq Aminu from the previous years, or Mo Harkless, they had nobody who could defend like that LeBron, Kawhi, Paul George model. And like Karis LeVert went to town, and Karis is a
he was hitting him. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And I was just like, okay, this is basically what LeBron's gonna do. I don't know what's gonna happen, right? And now the difference is if you're trading Dame Lillard, Dame threes for LeBron twos, that's something else. But then the Lakers side, you also have Anthony Davis. So
yeah.
Anyway, sorry. So what are your thoughts on what's your reaction to Lakers Blazers?
Well, this is the possibility of the biggest upset in the first round. They do have the defenders to take care of Davis if need be, with at least Whiteside and Nurkic. He's not really much of a defender, but it's another big body you can throw out there.
Mm-hmm.
But then they'll make AD work on defense as well, especially Nurkic. And then with LeBron, LeBron has shown in the past he can carry a team.
Yeah.
I don't know. At 37, he's 37 now, right? If he can still do that. So,
35. He's not
35.
Unfortunately, I'm closer to that age, and you're making me feel a little bit older, dude.
But at 35, I don't know if he can still carry a team that has this many holes. So,
yeah, they don't like the not having anybody to guard those small wings, small point guard, in Dame and even McCollum, right? But unfortunately, McCollum has the fractured back, so that's been limiting him. But when it comes game time, it's not just Dame time. CJ has shown he can bring it. It will be.
Melo's had some big moments too.
You know what? We should talk about Melo. I know this is probably like the opinion that everybody says, and everybody's gonna rank me for it. But honestly, I thought he was done. I'm just going to call it right here. I thought he was done, not from a skill perspective, okay? Don't get, no doubt he could drop on anybody in the league and get buckets. My thought was, after going through Houston and OKC, not being able to adjust to not having the ball in your hands, I thought it might have been the limiting factor, right? Like, in the end of the day, everybody is gonna have to share. And hey, he proved everybody wrong. I definitely will chalk that up as a big mistake guess on my part. And he's been ready, just locked and loaded. Whether he shot 1 for 10 or only shot 5 times, he'll be ready to hit that 3, whenever they need. And how many times did he do it in that bubble? Twice? It was like
twice, yeah.
Yeah, crazy, man. Then, he could be a serious X factor. He's gonna be a serious X factor. Yeah, man. Any last thoughts on the Lakers and Blazers clash of David and Goliath?
No. That's pretty much all there was in that. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to actually stick with the Western Conference. For our next rapid reaction, I want to go with the little brother of LA versus the legacy of Dirk Nowitzki, finding himself in 2 other future Euro potential Hall of Famers. One I think for sure, but the potential for the other one in the Dallas Mavericks. So we got the LA Clippers number 2 seed versus the Dallas Mavericks number 7 seed. What are your thoughts on them?
Oh, wow. Kawhi versus Luka. I got to say, Luka's my favorite player right now. He has pretty much everything you want out of a ball player. He's got that clutch gene. He's got that court vision. He can pass. He can, maybe his defense needs a little work, but, that'll come.
Yeah.
And then how can you hate on Kawhi? So this is it's a tough series. You can't hate on Kawhi for bringing the championship to the Raptors. Right? But then he plays with Pat Bev, so you can hate on Pat Bev.
I respect Pat Bev's journey, and it's like all the Clippers before Kawhi and Paul George got there. Respect all their journeys, right? But man, I swear that Pat Bev trash talks like no tomorrow. Even when he's sitting on the bench, he's still trash talking. I'm like, yeah, we all know you're like an epic defender, but dude, why are you still trash talking? Like, you can't you can't be out there to back up your words. Like, this is your shtick. You should know that unless you can back it, don't talk it, right? So it's, but yeah, I agree with you. It's Luka. I keep forgetting, man. What's he? This is only his second year. And
Second year. Yeah.
He's only 21 or so. I don't even know. It's like we're almost twice his age, for Pete's sake. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, what the? To your point, his poise he's incredible. Like his poise, his vision, like, and he's not even. You know what's even crazier? Like you said, the two things that I think that were like, it's unbelievable is he still actually doesn't shoot well from three. Like I think he's like low 30s or something, or high 20s. He's actually really not that good at shooting threes. So that's gonna come, right? Because he's just trying it. He's just trying everything, and he's gonna get there because he can shoot. And then the second thing is the defense, right? So 21, I'm like, he's gonna continue to skyrocket, and it's gonna be crazy. And it's just so it will depend to see. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, with Luka, how Luka adjusts to Kawhi level or Paul George level defense, like playoff defense. Like this is gonna be one of those situations where the experience is gonna like, okay, I think Luka's genius. It might take him a game and a half, 2 games, and he'll adjust. But if 2 games you get like swamped by George and Leonard, like for playoff level defense, you're already 2 in the hole. That'll be really tough, right? Yeah. But it might turn into what's going to happen with their supporting cast or the other players. Like is Paul George recovered, totally recovered? You know, obviously Lou Williams came back, so he had some games under his belt, but Montrezl is just coming back. And, you know, Kristaps has been incredible in the bubble. The Dallas team is still shooting like crazy. The only problem is they haven't been able to close games. Like they lost like 2 or 3 games down in the beginning of that bubble where you're like, you scored 150 points and you still lost. It's like, okay. It's like the graph of like scoring just went like, right? And that's experience, right? And just remembering that the end of games people lock down. So it's going to be a shoot it out drum fest, and it'll be kind of cool. But yeah, I think it's just the beginning for you know, Luka and Kristaps, and it'll be fun. But like you said, it'll be a good matchup, and it'll be
good matchup,
fun to watch.
I think Clippers will make it through. So, you know.
Yeah.
The Mavs have a few years left to get some experience.
Yeah. Like I think and they just need to you know, get work on the defense a little bit. But like I said, they're both young, right? That's the whole point, right? Like they're trying to grow a little. And in a way, the irony of this is not irony, but what's kind of like in a good comparison, you know, the Mavs are actually it's not quite the Mavs because they have such star talent in Luka, but like they're like the high-powered offensive humming machine, like last year how the Clippers were before Kawhi and Paul George. They were just like a clean machine of shooting and grinded out, you know, offense, right? You know, with behind Lou Will and Montrezl, and they were just scoring like crazy. They just didn't have anybody they couldn't stop anybody, right? So the Mavs are like that, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. It'll be interesting. Very interesting. Okay, next up, pick a series. We've done 4. So just a quick reminder: we've done Celtics versus Sixers, Lakers versus Blazers, Clippers versus Mavs, and Rockets versus Thunder. Who do you want?
Next one. Let's see. Let's get an easy one out of the way. We'll do Milwaukee versus Orlando.
Okay, so we can save some time.
Milwaukee in 3.
I don't even know if there's another way to say an easier way of saying a sweep. No, you know, it's tough. Like, it's a tough boat for Magic, right? Because if they had Jonathan Isaacs, like, actually, you know what? My reaction to this is I actually kind of sucks for the Bucks a little bit, because it would have been better if Isaacs was there, Gordon was healthy, and the whole Magic team was there. Because with Isaacs, he is a all NBA defender, and it would have, I swear the Bucks probably would have been like, it would have been so much better if Giannis had to deal with that for 4 games just to get him like jumped up. Because remember last year when they faced the Bucks faced the Pistons, Giannis is just, he basically only played, I don't even think he played 25 minutes a game. They basically just railroaded Detroit and railroaded Boston, right? So I'm like, last year. So I don't know if you need that kind of ease it into it, right? Like, you need to turn that thing on and feel that pressure, because if you face a team that is going to be ready to go in any subsequent, like, if assuming they make it through, okay, like, we joke, but come on, right? We joke with the Bucks and the Magic, but assuming they make it through, that Heat team that they might face in the next round is not going to be a joke, right? And they would have fought like ridiculously with the Pacers, and they'll bring like A+++, right? So yeah. Any we'll keep it short with the Bucks and the Magic. Any last what's your reaction to them?
No, it's the Milwaukee's been coasting for a little while. Even during the bubble, they haven't really been bringing their A game. So it'll be interesting to see if Orlando can maybe steal 1 or 2 games. Man. But it doesn't seem like it'll be much of a challenge for Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's like I said, missing Jonathan Isaacs kind of makes it tough, because they could have built that wall and had a primary Giannis stopper, right? It'll be like Isaacs on Giannis, Vukovic and Lopez. That makes obvious sense because they play very similar, right? Then Gordon, well, on Middleton, which I don't know, that's a give or take, right? But like, and then like Matt, and then obviously DJ, Augustine, T. Ross, of course, flamethrower. But they're all long dudes, right? And they could have at least created that mentality. And Clifford is all he teaches is the defense. Their issue was would they have scored enough? But without Isaacs, I don't know what you're gonna put. I guess you have to put Gordon on Giannis. But
it'll be Gordon. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, yo, Kyle Lowry can stop Gordon in the post. No, I'm like, but you get the point, right? It's I feel you, man. I feel you. Okay. We good with the Bucks and Magic?
Yeah, I'm good.
I think. Yeah. We can watch the games. We can watch the games. All right, I will pick for the next one. Well, we just talked about it, and we might as well get into the nitty-gritty of it. The Miami Heat versus the Indiana Pacers for a slug it out, duke it out fest. Although I just read that Jimmy Butler said any issue with TJ Warren is done, off the table. They're good to go. All right.
Okay.
So it's just gonna be team versus team going at it. What's your thoughts?
I gotta admit, I haven't been following Indiana. Once I heard Sabonis was out, Oladipo was out at the beginning, and he came back, I kind of just dropped them off my radar. But they're still in 4th. They still got Turner, and apparently Warren's been playing very well.
Yeah.
So but I think Miami. This is Miami's series. They got the experience of Butler, who's been there hundreds of times. Adebayo's there. They got Goran Dragic doing all the dirty work. So I think they have the team to get to the second round, but I'm hoping they make it to at least give Milwaukee some sort of challenge.
Yeah, well, I think to your point earlier, and not to take away from the Pacers, right? Like, I think they're incredible. What McMillan has done with them has been awesome. What Oladipo to come back and do what he's done, to come together, because really they've had, like, with Sabonis gone, who was essentially a glue guy, if you think about it, right? To glue the two sides with like the Brogdon, Sabonis, Turner with, Sabonis, Turner, and Oladipo. And then he was, they're a good central point of contact for them, right? But yeah, without Sabonis to deal with like Adebayo, you're gonna have to put Turner on him, and I don't know if Turner is gonna be fast enough. So it's tough, right? Like they're a really, really tough and strong team in their own right, and it's gonna be a duke it out fest, right? But to your point, not to look too far ahead, if they also make it through Miami versus the Bucks, that would be a proper series, right? Like, that is essentially a coin toss too, right? And I think what we said about Philly earlier is an example of what we're saying with Miami. With Jimmy Butler in the postseason, it's like, it's a different animal. And what he'll bring to the table against Milwaukee is, it'll be everything that Philly would be dreaming of if they had him in the 6th seed versus the Celtics.
Yeah. People forget, like Game 7, Philly-Toronto, Butler hit a big shot at the end.
Yeah.
Just Kawhi outdid him with the final shot.
Yeah. Well, the whole series, like it wasn't even just Game 7. I think I remember like Game 2. Game 2 drove me nuts when he would do when he passed out to like Embiid. I remember that game, and then like he was basically kept them he's the only playmaker on that team at that time, right? And and now with Miami, he's surrounded by multiple playmakers, so he doesn't even have to do that. He can conserve his energy, get the fouls, get people in foul trouble, and come fourth quarter time, he does his thing, right? So it's definitely going to be a shoot 'em out fest, and it's even though it's something we're looking a little bit ahead to the second round, it's I think it's the one that everybody wants. But I think it'll be a good series, 4-5 Heat Pacers. I think unfortunately Pacers are just missing a few pieces. They're gonna fight like dogs though, man. They're going to. They are true. Hard. Yeah, there are warriors. Nate McMillan has brought up some warriors, and they're not going to give up without a fight. That's for sure. Okay, we are down to two series left. Two in the West. There's Denver and Denver Nuggets and the Utah Jazz, and in the East, I don't think we need to give them any. There's no introduction needed, but still, it's the reigning defending Toronto Raptors versus the Brooklyn Nets. But how about this? Let's just save what we want to talk about to the end.
We'll save that for last. Okay.
And so let's go with the Denver Nuggets and the Utah Jazz. What's your first reaction?
Utah. Conley's out. Utah has no chance.
That's right. Yeah, I just saw that actually. Yeah, tonight, earlier this afternoon. First off, congratulations to Mike Conley on the coming birth of his child. It's there's no doubt that's you got to leave for that. I mean, you can't miss moments like that, right?
Yeah. I'll put them behind the 8 ball. Yeah.
They'll put them behind the 8 ball because in the bubble they finally found their rhythm, right? With Conley, because the whole year they were having a little bit of trouble syncing up, and they were able to figure it out. And then on top of that, they don't have Bojan Bogdanovic, their best shooter, so that's going to be really tough. Like the only way I could see them. Oh, sorry.
Special Ed's out too.
He is?
ACL or MCL, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it might not be Utah's year, right? And next year they might have to come back and bring it up, right? Like it'll be very difficult. Like obviously Donovan Mitchell can go supernova. So and Gobert might, be able to take down Jokic. Although from what I understand of the averages, Jokic is averaging almost a triple-double against, like a 20-point triple-double against Utah. So I don't know what he's – I don't know what you're going to stop. But, yeah, it's tough, right? The Utah Jazz have all the weapons in theory on paper, but not all of them are there, right? They could have really used Connolly. And now Denver also found some, coins under the pillow. Not just coins. They found like a freaking Benjamin on like a Benji like $100 Benjamin under the pillow with Michael Porter Jr. Suddenly turning into like the I don't even know, man. Next George Gervin. I don't even know. He's like just playing like crazy. But so they found some some house money, and they're gonna be interested. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I will say though, once again, I think I think it was Utah. So actually, it's not this year. It's not Denver this year. Denver, I don't know if you remember, last year, Denver played a little bit with the basketball karma folks. And they played around with their seeding so that they can ensure that they get the Spurs in that first round. From what I saw, I think this year, Utah played a little fun and games with the seedings too, so that they could try to I'm pretty sure they tried to avoid Houston in the first round. Like, they did not want to see Houston again for the first round again. They really just did not want to see them again. And so they fudged around to make sure that they didn't end up in that 4-5 seed with Houston, because they were playing some pretty wacky lineups at the end against some other teams pretty early. So I'm not saying any team is afraid of any other team, but I guess Denver fits more against what the Jazz would do with, Jokic and Gobert.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure there's plenty of analytics out there for the Nuggets and the Jazz, but we're nearing the end of our pod, and we got to spend some good time with something that we could say is not quite neutral in our words.
Just a little bit.
A little bit. For the matchup of the reigning, defending NBA champions, Toronto Raptors versus the Brooklyn Nets. And it's also coincidentally a rematch 5 years in the making, I guess, since we last saw the Brooklyn Nets when it, we the North really, kind of really kicked into high gear. So from a historical sense, it has some interesting context, but from a team sense, it'll be interesting. What are your thoughts?
Well, I like the way Brooklyn's been playing, since they fired Kenny Atkinson. But you can still see his handprints all over the team, but they've been playing hard for Jack Vaughn.
Yeah.
They're pretty athletic. They run up and down the floor. They pass the ball. They play prototypical, 2020 basketball, shooting threes. And they have that go-to scorer in LeVert. It's weird because when we played the Nets 5 years ago, they were the veteran team and the Raptors were the up-and-coming team. And now, the Raptors are the veteran team, and these Nets are they don't even have their full deck. Kyrie, they have KD.
It's like six out of the 7 players, 6 out of their 7, active roster is not there or something like that, right?
Yeah.
It's not even the same team that the Raptors played in the regular season that, broke their 15-game win streak, right? Okay, the ones that are still there are Joe Harris, obviously, LeVert, Temple. I'm actually struggling. Oh, Jared Allen.
Jared Allen's there, yeah.
Yeah, but outside of that, said Luke yeah. Oh, Tyler Johnson, yeah. Jamal Crawford.
Yeah.
But the big one that's been a surprise is the guy Luke Cameroon. Yeah, I apologize. I apologize, Luke, for I should work on that a little bit better. But suffice to say, I'm very impressed by his performance in the bubble. He's been very exceptional. They've been shooting like crazy. And to your point, that last Portland-Brooklyn game at the end, the last game of the season, was an example of, showing out, right? These guys will fight, and they're going to be feisty. But I think both you and I can say, with pretty good confidence, this Raptor team takes nobody for granted, respects everybody, and takes nobody for granted.
Yeah, our defense is not like Portland's defense.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. So that and that was the glaring thing. It's like you think about him like, okay, LeVert, he's gonna go crazy, but we're gonna push him to have to go crazy. You know.
Well, you can throw multiple looks at him. You can
Yeah.
put Fred, OG if you really need to.
Yeah.
Anyone,
Pascal. Yeah. Any of them, right? Pascal, Norm, all of them, right? It's just gonna be from 1 to 7. You could find even like Hollis Jefferson. It would be. I would even say like Hollis Jefferson would be interesting because once he gets in the game, he's gonna have a bit of chip on his shoulder, be like, hey, you could have used me on. Yeah, I honestly, I'll tell you right now, I'm shocked that the Nets never did pick up Hollis Jefferson or at least offer him something because he is like epitome of what Brooklyn and in a way what the Raptors style is. You play hard no matter what, right?
Yeah.
Like but you also obviously you have to play smart, and he's exceptional at that. And I'm like for what the Raptors got for him, like that I think it was a $2 million and a player option. That's so cheap for somebody who's like such a hard worker from position 1 to 5, who's going to give it his all and everything. That exactly fits what Brooklyn needed, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, either way, it's still the playoffs. The Raptors got to do it. They got to get through game 1 with a W.
I'm not holding hope out for game 1.
Hey, they're not at home. There's no like they don't have to walk by Jurassic Park and and be like, hey, what's going on? But they're professionals. This year has shown anything beyond anything that history does not define who they are. It's their professionalism and their execution that makes up the 2019-2020 NBA defending champion Toronto Raptors. Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, Norm Powell, Hollis Jefferson, Terrence Davis, Matt Thomas, they all, Chris Boucher and everybody else, it's all professionalism straight up and down, 1 to 17, I guess. And they're going to bring it. They're going to bring it, man. They're going to bring it, man. So, any last minute thoughts about that series before we call it a night?
I'm going to say Raps in 5. I'm not holding out hope for game 1. I've been burned too many times. So let's say Raps in 5. I'll give them the gentleman's sweep. Give them the first game, take the next 4.
You know what? The one thing I do also appreciate is knowing that the Nets were going to bring the fight is good for the Raptors. It's just, you remember last year against the Magic, they had the game 1 and they basically, it was a bad game, right? They lost, right? Yeah, it might have been game 1, but also it woke them up. So the Nets will make sure they're wide awake, ready to go. No doubt that they will be ready to go, but it'll be a good reminder, a good test. Steel sharpens steel, okay? So Brooklyn, they're a good team. They have some interesting parts, and there's some good steel. But the Raptors are going to bring the heavy steel, and let's go. Let's get this. Some exciting stuff, man. I'm looking forward to this playoffs. It's been a good bubble. Like, I guess to end this off, what have your thoughts been about this the NBA bubble and the restart? And have you liked it? Have you liked how this has been run? And do you expect the playoffs to be just as intense or just as exciting?
It's been way better than I thought it'd be.
Yeah.
I thought after 2 weeks they would have shut the whole thing down. Someone would have brought in some COVID or whatever, like Lou Will or whatever, with his wings. But it's been way better. The quality of basketball has been amazing.
Yeah.
The games that they've actually tried in the games, they really, really, made these things competitive. And I think the playoffs will be good. It'll be interesting without fans during the playoffs.
Yeah.
But, we got to take what we can get right now.
Hey, as always, in the end of the day, we bring it's all about the spirit power, and we're always rooting for the Raptors, and so is every other fan, right? But yeah, I think it's going to be make it interesting. But in the end of the day, I think that bubble showed that they're all professionals. They're all just gonna, they're all gonna execute, right? I think the big thing that the fans brought was, I think, hiding some of the dialogue or some of the conversations between players, between coaches, and between referees, because there's been a ton of technical fouls, because I think the rest can actually hear if the player calls them like an a-hole or something like that real loud. There's no crowd to hide that fact. It's all we can do is root, and it's going to be exciting. Yeah, I agree with you, man. It's been a pleasant surprise. It's been fun to watch, and now the real games begin. It's been over 150 days. I think it's over 160 days that we've been waiting for this moment to start again. And here we go. So let's go. And it's going to be exciting. So, all right. Thanks very much, Rod. I really appreciate your time with us at the Continental. I hope you enjoyed yourself. It's been a real pleasure. I really hope that we can have you again on the podcast, and we look forward to catching up. Maybe we'll do this again for the second and third rounds. It's just gonna be a crazy time. So it'll be good. It'll be good to watch. No problem. Thanks very much, Rod. And as always, it's a pleasure to have you at the Continental. Please come again. Thank you.